It's 2:14 p.m. on November 13. Over the open waters north of Venezuela, a US Coast Guard drone operator hears a sharp alarm cut through the quiet control room. He looks at the screen, expecting another routine alert. But the picture that stabilizes in front of him is anything but routine. Two Venezuelan Navy patrol ships, real warships with their hull numbers clear as day, are sailing in formation around four fast boats packed with wrapped drug bundles. They are not chasing them. They are not warning them. They are protecting them, holding position like a moving wall. Inside the drone station, no one speaks. The only sounds are the steady alarm and the tense breathing of the crew watching the feed. The operator calls his supervisor, but the man is already standing behind him, staring at the impossible scene. As the Venezuelan ships slowly turn their 76mm gun mounts toward the horizon, everyone in the room feels the same cold weight settle in. Do they step in and risk a fight with a foreign navy, or do they watch a crime protected by a national flag? What the drone caught on November 13 was not just a strange scene on the water. It mattered because it broke every rule that holds the Caribbean together. The area north of Venezuela is one of the busiest drug corridors in the region, watched day and night by radar, satellites, and patrol aircraft. It is the place where every small move can turn into a major incident within minutes. For the US Coast Guard crew watching the feed, this was not only about drugs. It was about a foreign navy using military power to protect criminal work. The Venezuelan patrol ships in the video were not old boats or poorly armed vessels. They were modern ships with real guns, trained crews, and clear orders. That meant the fast boats under their protection were not acting alone. Someone high in the chain had approved this escort. And once a navy joins a drug run, the line between crime and state action disappears. That is what makes this moment so dangerous. For the men and women on the US side, this was personal too. They spend months at sea, stopping drug loads, pulling survivors from the water, and dealing with violent smugglers. Seeing uniformed sailors protect a shipment that could destroy whole towns in the US hit a nerve. It felt like watching someone tear down the work of thousands with one simple act. The stakes were bigger than the scene on the screen. If a navy can protect drug boats without fear of consequences, then every rule on the water becomes weaker. Other groups may see this and push further. Countries that stay neutral may be pulled into conflicts they never wanted. Even a small mistake near these waters can turn into an international crisis. Washington understood that. The Coast Guard Command Center watched the feed in real time and had to choose its next move carefully. Order an interception, and they might start a fight. Hold back, and they allow a foreign navy to move drugs with no resistance. Either path changes the future of the region. This is why what happened on November 13 matters. It is not about one convoy. It is about who controls the sea, who respects the law, and who is willing to cross the line. And now the world has to decide if this was an isolated act or the new normal. If you had to choose, would you stand firm or step back? Press 1 if the US should confront them, or press 9 if holding back was the only safe choice. The first reaction inside the Coast Guard Command Center hit the moment the drone feed showed the Venezuelan ships closing around the fast boats. The watch officer called for a quick verification. On the main screen, the hull numbers sharpened again. PO 13 inches front, PO 15 on the right. The bundles on the fast boats were stacked high, almost spilling over the sides. No one needed a second look to know what they were carrying. Analysts confirmed the data, and the commander gave a direct order: bring the nearest cutter into range. The closest was the US Coast Guard cutter James, already patrolling nearby. It turned sharply toward the convoy, engines pushing hard. On the drone screen, the distance numbers dropped fast. Inside the drone station, the shift from shock to action was instant. A sensor tech zoomed in. On PO 13, sailors moved to their posts. On PO 15, the 76mm gun turned a few degrees. It wasn't a full aim, but it was a warning. Even from miles away, the meaning was clear. They were ready to stand their ground. On the cutter James, the crew was already on alert. The radio operator called out in English and Spanish, asking the Venezuelan ships to identify themselves and slow down. The message was repeated 3 times. No answer came back. The 2 patrol ships kept moving, holding formation like they had full control over the sea around them. The drug boats suddenly accelerated north. Their wakes stretched long behind them, and PO-13 and PO-15 shifted with them, tightening into a shield. For the Coast Guard, this felt like a line being drawn. Push in and risk a confrontation. Hold back and let the drugs slip away. The cutter kept closing the gap. The drone zoomed wider, catching all 6 boats in one frame. The room grew tense. With the convoy speeding forward and no radio reply, the next call had to be made fast. Move closer and risk a clash, or stay back and lose the only chance to stop the shipment? As the James reached the edge of safe distance, the room went silent. One choice carried danger. The other meant letting the convoy run free. If you were in that room, what would you choose? Press 1 if they should have pushed ahead, or press 9 if holding back was the only smart move. When the cutter James came close enough to see the convoy without the drone, the situation tightened fast. On the drone feed, the 2 Venezuelan patrol ships moved again, pulling in around the fast boats until the formation looked almost locked. It was a defensive screen, the kind usually used to protect supply ships, but now it was shielding drug runners. On PO-13, sailors rushed across the deck. Some watched the James through binoculars, while others took positions behind the gun mounts. PO-15 matched every move, its 76mm gun turning slightly. It wasn't a full aim, but it was enough to raise the tension in every room watching the feed. At this distance, even a small turn mattered. The cutter James slowed just a bit, trying to stay careful and ready at the same time. Through their own binoculars, the Coast Guard officers saw the Venezuelan crew in full gear, weapons manned, standing firm. This wasn't confusion, it was clear intent. The radio operator on the James tried again. Identify yourselves. Slow your engines. Prepare for inspection. Silence. The drone zoomed in on PO-15. A sailor looked up toward the sky, like he knew they were being watched, but the ship kept its line. The fast boats changed formation next. Instead of heading straight north, they shifted into a staggered line, making it harder for any small craft to approach. The Venezuelan ships moved with them, tightening their wall even more. It was coordinated, not a reaction. Inside the command center, someone called out the new problem. The convoy was getting close to the edge of Venezuelan territorial waters. Once they crossed that line, the James could not legally follow. The chance to stop them was shrinking by the minute. On the water, the cutter held a careful distance. Too close and it could be taken as a threat. Too far and the convoy would slip away. Every person watching knew how fragile this moment was. One wrong move could spark a confrontation. One slow move could lose the entire shipment. The drone widened its view, showing all 6 boats speeding forward like a single unit. The pressure in the room rose. The decision point was seconds away. Push forward and risk a clash, or stay back and watch the convoy reach safe waters. If you were the one calling the shots, what would you choose? Press 1 if the James should have pushed in, or press 9 if keeping distance was the only safe path. The next shift came so suddenly that the drone operator thought his screen had frozen. One of the fast boats in the convoy began slowing down. At first it looked like a mistake, maybe a bad turn or a wave hitting wrong. But then thick black smoke poured out from its engine, and the boat lost speed fast. The other fast boats didn't turn back. They kept moving north at full power, following the plan to never stop the whole mission for one failure. But PO-15 stopped. The Venezuelan patrol ship pulled right beside the disabled boat. The drone zoomed in, and the whole control room fell silent. Sailors in uniform moved with clear purpose, lifting wrapped drug bundles from the fast boat and carrying them onto their own military deck. No confusion, no panic. It looked practiced, like they had done this many times before. On the cutter James, the report hit the bridge instantly. The captain knew this was the first real opening. PO-15 was stopped and busy, The broken fast boat was alone. For a moment, the crew felt the chance to act, but they also saw the danger. Approaching meant getting close to an armed foreign warship handling illegal cargo. One wrong call could turn a drug stop into a direct clash. The transfer took only minutes. The last bundle disappeared below deck, and the empty fast boat drifted behind them. Then PO-15 powered up again, returning to the convoy as if nothing unusual had happened. It was now clear. These ships weren't just escorting the drugs, they were transporting them. And when a navy can move illegal cargo openly, the rules at sea start to collapse. If you were watching this moment live, what would you want the James to do? Press 1 if they should have moved in, or press 9 if staying back was the only safe choice. The moment PO-15 rejoined the convoy, the cutter James pushed closer than at any point before. From the drone's high angle, the entire formation tightened like a moving wall, with the fast boats in the center and the two Venezuelan patrol ships guarding each side. The broken fast boat drifted behind, empty and ignored, a sign of how organized the operation really was. But the real burst of tension came when the James launched its helicopter. The MH-65 helicopter lifted off fast, heading straight toward the convoy. Its crew knew the rules: no shots unless fired upon, but stay sharp. For a second, it looked like the Coast Guard might finally get a clear angle. The Venezuelan ships reacted instantly. PO-13 swung left, PO-15 swung right. Both ships brought their heavy machine guns upward, tracking the helicopter's path. They didn't fire, but they didn't need to. The message was loud and clear: stay back. Inside the helicopter, the door gunner held position, steady but tense. Below him, the pilot kept altitude at 500 feet, high enough to avoid being seen as a threat, low enough to confirm the scene. And he saw everything. Sailors on PO-15 carrying the last drug bundles below deck. On the cutter James, the captain watched both screens, the drone overhead and the helicopter up front. They were running out of time. The convoy was only minutes away from crossing into Venezuelan territorial waters. Once they reached that line, the chase was over. The James pushed its engines harder, trying to close the gap just enough to make one last call. The drone zoomed in tight. Sailors on PO-13 signaled to each other. Some pointed at the helicopter. Some pointed at the James. None looked afraid. The radio operator called again. Venezuelan vessels, stop your engines. Prepare for inspection. Silence answered once more. Then the convoy made its final move. The fast boat surged ahead. PO-13 and PO-15 pressed in tight and crossed the territorial line. The helicopter pulled back. The cutter slowed. It was finished. Inside the command center, no one said a word. They had just watched a Navy move drugs under full military protection and walk away untouched. If you were standing on the bridge at that moment, would you have pushed the limit or held the line? Press 1 if you would have gone forward, or press 9 if stopping was the only safe choice. When the convoy crossed into Venezuelan waters, the cutter James slowed down and the helicopter turned back. In the drone room, the silence felt heavier than the chase. They had clear footage, but no legal way to keep going. The analysts replayed the clips. They saw sailors in uniform loading drug bundles, the tight formation, the coordinated moves. Nothing looked accidental, and nothing looked like a one-time event. The report moved up the chain fast. This wasn't a normal smuggling run. It was a foreign navy moving illegal cargo in daylight under its own flag. It raised difficult questions. If they could do this openly once, how many times had they done it before? And how many times had they done it without being seen? Intelligence teams pulled weeks of satellite data. Patterns began to appear: late-night departures, sudden course changes, unexplained gaps on radar. Other countries in the region demanded answers. In Washington, the debate grew sharper. Pushing back risked a clash with a foreign military. Holding back meant allowing a protected drug route to grow stronger month after month. The sea north of Venezuela was no longer a simple smuggling corridor. It had become a contested space. For the crew of the cutter James, the frustration stayed long after the engines cooled. They had been close enough to see everything, the uniforms, the weapons, the transfer, but the law forced them to stop. They watched the convoy use territorial boundaries like armor. But the event forced change. More drones were assigned to the region. Satellite coverage expanded. Agencies began building a new response plan. What happened on November 13 wasn't an ending. It was the beginning of something bigger, something both sides would have to face again. Now, the question is simple. What should happen next? Press 1 if stronger action is needed, or press 9 if avoiding escalation should stay the top priority.